I believe. Welcome, everybody. We are going to be talking today about intermittent fasting and restrictive diets. So there's quite a few of here. I know we talk quite often about gut issues, where quite often people are trying all sorts of things because as you go through your career, your gut starts acting up. So for many of you, that could mean where it could mean where you're worried about what to eat because of the payback. You know, you're afraid to eat, or you're so bloated that you're not hungry, or you're afraid to eat, or you just don't want to ruin your day because you don't know what is going to happen in your gut. So there's so many different things that we often think about when it comes to so many gut issues with you guys. So you try all sorts of things. I know there's keto. There's some of you in here that are dabbling in keto, and keto absolutely has benefits. It really does. But there are some things to consider. First off is when you are doing keto, if you are in any signs of burnout, any with adrenal fatigue, where your adrenals are just being taxed like crazy and your hormones, then keto can actually damage what is happening in your body and in your gut. Keto is amazing for people once they've healed their gut to go through that, and mainly for men. More studies are showing that women need more of an adapted keto lifestyle. So that is really important to understand as well, where you're at with that, with keto. So then we're going to get into an intermittent fasting. Oh, the other thing with keto as well, and paleo, is that when you do, you tend to eat more meats, which there's nothing wrong with eating meats. Meats are great. They're a great source of protein. But when your gut has been stressed, when you're under stress, your gut actually starts struggling to produce stomach acids, which means it can't break down the proteins. So it is not, we're dealing with somebody right now in the program who's on keto, and he's struggling a lot with his bowel issues, that we're trying to work a little bit on his stomach acids to handle it, because we're totally not against keto. We're not at all. It's just the fact that his gut may not be ready for keto because of the stomach acid. So we need to get that going, and we need to make sure that his adrenals as well are completely supported to be able to handle it. So when we get into intermittent fasting, there's a lot of people talk about fasting, and there's so many different versions on it. There's so many different things and different reasons for it. If you are fasting every single day, then there's a problem. What happens is the fasting that is the healthy style of fasting is when you're doing it like a maximum of 3 times a week, maximum 3 times a week for fasting. So the reason is too, is it gives your body a bit of a shock, and it also then allows food that maybe isn't digested and broken down in your gut to have time to be able to get that time to break down and get out and exit. So it can actually be used once your gut is healthy, once your adrenals are healthy, to keep yourself in check. Now, the thing with some of the fasting things as well with keto definitely is with the job. It's really hard when you're not on a regular schedule at all to be able to be following keto, because when you're with keto as well, you want to make sure that you are definitely using your ketones versus your glucose as your fuel source. And if you're switching quite often, if you're able to be, because quite often I'll talk to some that are doing keto, and I'm like, are you able to follow it 100% of the time on your shifts? Like, no, but I'm about 80%. So what that means is that you're getting into the ketones for some of it, and then you're going out, you're going in and you're out. And that really, really puts a huge strain on your hormones. Your stress management system is in charge of 50 different hormones. It then also pushes your adrenals themselves, your stress management system. And It also changes if you are having adrenal and stress issues, then your gut is not prepared for it as well. So those are just things I would caution you. I'm not against keto. I'm paleo, all of these things. I think they all have really great attributes. We just need to make sure that your gut is ready for it. And then it can really have those benefits. And so then we're going to get into restrictive dieting. So you may have heard of like FODMAPs, the AIP diet, all of these different things. And we may tend to be restricting ourselves because of how our body feels. We may not be eating vegetables. I hear from a lot of you who struggle with vegetables. As soon as you eat them, you're either bloating or you have pain or you get diarrhea. You have to like run to the washroom. So obviously, obviously, like there's an issue going on in your gut. It's a gut issue. It's not a food issue. When we talk about FODMAPs, so a lot of the solution in order to be fixing your gut is FODMAPs, but FODMAPs has so many rules and regulations and like how big something can be when it goes in and how it has to be cooked and the size. And there's so many rules and regulations and so many restrictions on it that it's just not realistic. You can't live on that. And that means you're not fixing the root problem in your gut. It means that you are only fixing, it's like a Band-Aid solution. Okay, we're just not going to give you stuff that's going to irritate you. That's all we're going to do, but we're not going to fix the problem because vegetables are healthy. Eating meat is healthy, unless you're vegan, vegetarian, that's absolutely fine. And there's sources for that. But if you are a carnivore, if you do eat meats, but they don't either digest or they're constipating you, it's not the meat. It's not the vegetables. You need those things. And when you're not getting the right acids to break things down, when you have an imbalance of minerals, when your small intestine is completely out of whack and inflamed and you have undigested proteins actually going into your bloodstream through your small intestine and larger pieces of meat and food going into your colon, you get backed up, you get headaches, you get moody, you get angry, you get anxiety, you get depression. It throws off your whole adrenals, your sleep gets messed up. It can cause a slew of problems. And if we just go, okay, let's just stop the foods that are causing the problem, we're still not fixing the problem. We need to go and fix those acids. We need to go and fix your stomach lining of your small intestine. But first, we need to make sure that your constipation and diarrhea are in check. Because if we start fixing the stomach or the small intestine, and we start killing off bad bacteria, or we start getting the food actually going the right way, but your colon's blocked, it's just going to keep blocking it even more. And as we discussed the other day, that quite often when you have diarrhea, what we're finding in many of you, unless it's diarrhea like 4 times a day, if it's like, for even me, it was once a day, I was actually constipated, but my colon was so backed up, sorry for the visual, it was just getting too much pressure that it had to evacuate so it does some sort of diarrhea in order to evacuate you, but it's not clearing out your whole colon. So when you're going on all of these restrictive diets, you're not fixing the root of the problem. Now, that being said, gluten and dairy are definitely big inflammatory foods. They do cause issues and are very known to be causing issues in your small intestine, in your gut, in your colon, large intestine, all of these things. So as soon as you do have gluten and dairy in your diet, then it does exacerbate any of the issues that you do have. Taking gluten and dairy out are going to be very beneficial for you, but they're not going to fix the root of the problem. And the thing is a lot of people think, oh crap, I have to take everything out. But there isn't anything that you can't have if you're gluten and dairy free. You can still have pizza and cheese. There's different types of cheese you can still have. You can still have like lasagna and pasta, and there's really great breads. Check out Unbun, like amazing breads. I eat them all the time. That I actually like, I don't even want. Whereas when I've been gluten-free for 26 years, but when I I used to look at pizzas and pastas and all of these things enviously, but now like with Unbun, I don't even think about it because it's so good. There's tinkyata pasta. Just switch with the kind that you're buying. It's not a big deal. All it is just buying a different brand of something that doesn't have gluten in it. Meat, potatoes, sweet potatoes, rice, any kind of veggies, all of those things are gluten-free. So you just have to watch gravies instead, use cornstarch instead of wheat. And a lot of companies that actually make pre-made gravies and broths and stuff, soups, are switching out what they used to use wheat, and they're just switching it out with cornstarch. So there's so many different things that you can do, and that gluten and dairy is the one thing that we do take out, that we do highly suggest. But anything else in any restricted diet, if you are needing to take them out, then there's a problem that needs to be fixed, and that's what we need to address, so that you can eat those foods. So I guess this goes for the biggest question is, what the heck do you do? Because going long periods without food, if you are skipping breakfast every single day because your stomach just can't handle it, what happens is your body starts going into some sort of a starvation mode, and it starts decreasing your calories and changing your metabolism, and it changes the way that your gut moves and all of these things, because if you're not eating, your colon isn't moving, which exacerbates your constipation. So we need to get something going in there. So the first thing that we do suggest is usually some sort of a gut healing drink. So there's a couple of different choices. Honestly, my favorite and quickest and easiest thing is a gut healing hot chocolate. So all you do is take hot water, and you take cocoa or cacao powder. Make sure that they are not mixed with a sugar, so, or anything else. Make sure the ingredient is completely cocoa powder or cacao. I know Costco sells huge boxes, bags of them in the States and in Canada. So just get cacao powder, put like 1 or 2 heaping tablespoons in it, and then get gelatin. Best to have, if you're not vegan or vegetarian, if you eat meat, best to have a bovine gelatin. So what it does is, it's first off a protein source, it's a fat source, but it also helps to heal your gut lining. So it's going to be gentle on your gut as it's going through. So it's really important. Now, the thing is when you add the hot water, the gelatin gets gummy. So you put 1 tablespoon of the gelatin in with the 2 tablespoons or 1 tablespoon, depends on how much chocolate you like, of the powder, and mix that really together, or it will go in clumps. Add in the hot water, and then as you're pouring in the hot water, stir it as you're going through. Stir it and stir it and stir it. And then here's the thing too is, you, depending on where you're at with your gut healing, I know in the program, pretty much 80% of all people who have any gut issues, IBS issues, usually do have SIBO. So with a SIBO protocol, that is where we're killing all of the bacteria, the bad bacteria in your gut, and they feed off of sugar. So in the gut healing hot chocolate for them, we take out the sugar and we use stevia drops, the liquid or the powder, or we use monk fruit sugar. If you're keto as well, that's another thing, or paleo. But if you're okay with sugar, you can add a little bit of maple syrup in it. So it's definitely a good thing to try, and it will heal your gut. So start off with that. And if that goes well, then if there is something else that you know is healing, is good for you, like go with the gut healing chocolate for breakfast. And then if after a while you are, Eric, I see you have a question. I'll answer it in a second. If after a while, you're good that you can start adding a little bit more to your breakfast, then add something else. If it's a slice of bread that's a little, more digestible, just as we talked about the other day, too slow. Try to chew 20 to 30 times, because it breaks down the food, gets the digestive enzymes going in your mouth, and it gets the digestive enzymes also going in your stomach. so that by the time the food gets in there, it can actually break it down better and digest it better. So that will also help with the payback and all of the issues. Like if you can eat beans, eat beans. There's really just no right and wrong with anything. It's really listening to your gut. But if you're having issues, definitely, then we need to really fix that. Okay, Eric, which interfasting schedule do you recommend for 3 days a week? Well, here's the thing, like, are you on a regular schedule? This is where shift work comes in, right? 16 and 8 is good. There's different ones, honestly. Whichever one works for you and around your schedule, because if you're on a rotating of 2 days, 2 nights, it makes it hard to do that. And then on your day shift, if you were like with my husband, they used to be on 7 days block off, 7 evenings block off, 7 nights block off. So it's really hard depending, because if you do need to be eating then on a shift, but then another time you're eating on your days off, or you're sleeping when you're supposed to be eating, it really throws things off. So if you have found something that does work for you and you want to be doing intermittent fasting, then go for it. Yeah, the traditional 16 and 8 is good. It's really what works for you, because everybody that is in this group, their schedules are different. Their shift work is different. You work 24-hour shifts. So the thing with 24-hour shifts too is when you get home, like, you need to be able to work it so you're able to eat during the time that you're not sleeping, and you never know when things are going to be popping up on shift as well. So there's a lot of unknown variables when it comes to doing the intermittent fasting. It's hard. If you have one that works for you, go for it. And if you like it, do it. I could never do it. We have a couple in the program that are doing it, but actually it's interesting because one of them is looking for an exit plan starting, I think July. He's been doing keto. And so July, we're helping him to transition as we're working on fixing his gut. He was just finding that keto really made his gut feel good. And it does, because if you do have SIBO, your gut, those bad bacteria are feeding off of sugar. So keto is no sugar at all. So you're actually not feeding these bacteria. So they're not gaining traction and they're not causing as many symptoms. I know for me, I look back and I've had SIBO symptoms probably for about 20 years when I first started my first adrenal crash. And looking back though, but I've never had tons of the bloating and pain that people have because my diet is so clean and it's always been clean. But for other people, if they were eating gluten, if they were eating dairy, if they were eating any foods, like even a pepperette stick has, it might have sugar in it, and that will feed SIBO. And I don't eat any of those things. So the thing is that keto really does sometimes make people feel a lot better, but then they start having the issues of constipation more because those stomach acids can't break down and digest the meat, because there actually is an underlying problem. So the keto helps to relieve some symptoms, but it doesn't necessarily fix the root cause. So I would highly suggest fixing the root cause first, and then after that, if you want to go back on keto because it works for you, it works great on your schedule, you like it, you like the fasting, all of those things, then absolutely go back to it. But I would highly suggest that you get your hormones on check, you get your adrenals back on track and your gut sorted first before you get back into that, so that keto can really do what keto is supposed to do. And again, as I said in the beginning, females do need modified keto for hormones, or it will actually put you back into adrenal and hormonal issues. So yeah, in my program, I'm not the keto specialist. I'm not the hormone specialist. I actually have another coach that does that, where that is completely her zone of genius and her field. So she works with people on that in my program. I do all of the vagus nerve training, all of your gut training, all of the aspects that work around your shift, and we play around with all of those things together. And then her and I both do the gut stuff together. So if any of you two are looking into SIBO, you can absolutely go to your doctor and get a test. In the States, actually, I think it's the States, sometimes that your doctor can get you a test, but make sure it's a lactulose breath test that you're doing, because it doesn't necessarily test then the different types of SIBO. Now, here's the thing. Quite often the doctors too do recommend that you do an antibiotic in order to kill the bacteria, but it kills the good and the bad bacteria, and bacteria usually hides behind kind of a biofilm. And if you're not doing all of the right things to get the bacteria out of its hiding places, then the antibiotics will help you and fix you for a time. You may get absolute relief of your symptoms after the antibiotic round, and then you might find like 6 months, a year later, all the same symptoms creep in but worse. And the reason that they creep in and worse is because the antibiotics also killed your good bacteria. So anytime you're on antibiotics, kills your good bacteria. And so those bad bacteria can come in even stronger and more forceful the next time. So if you didn't kill all of them, then they come back with a vengeance worse the next time. As I said, with my SIBO, when I did the testing, we actually, the person that did all my treatments, and I learned everything that I learned from, she only works with SIBO gut issues, like ridiculous, like crazy, where people are hospitalized, issues with people with SIBO. And I was like the second worst test that she'd ever had. But as I said, my diet was so clean. So I wasn't getting a lot of the aggravation as much of the SIBO. So it's taking, I'm still actually doing part of the protocol because it's going to take me almost a year to actually kill all the bacteria. And you think about a round of antibiotics, it's only a couple of weeks. And the thing is you do the way that we do it, at least in the program, in the 9 Only Performance program, is that you go through a phase where you're weeding and killing the bacteria, and then we replenish your good gut bacteria, and then we weed and kill bacteria and replenish your gut bacteria, and we keep going through those things over and over again, at the same time though as supporting your stress, your nervous system. Because if your nervous system keeps going into that stress state, then, as I was saying earlier this week, your gut starts slowing down and your colon starts slowing down. If those things start slowing down as we're trying to eliminate these bacteria, they get stuck in your colon, and you have all these toxins going into your body. And at the same time too, they're throwing off your hormones. So we have to be doing the hormones at the same time. So in the program, you've got the specialization of us who are all specialized in the 3 different categories to be able to help you through the process, to get the adrenal fatigue, the burnout gone, to be able to get the gut supported so that everything is happening in the order that it needs to happen, not doing just one at a time. So hopefully that answers everything. If you have any other questions, definitely plop them in the comments. I will come back and answer them for you. But yeah, intermittent, if you are doing restrictive diets, just because your gut is an absolute mess, it doesn't have to be. We can totally help you with it. Just reach out. We are here, and gut issues are a huge part of adrenal fatigue. So you need to really make sure that you're managing both of them together and not just one. All right. Any questions? Absolutely. Let me know. You know where to find me.